My name is Josh Peck, host of Peck Report on Daily Renegade. I used to suffer with chronic pain from a degenerative bone disease. I was hopelessly addicted to opioids without any end in sight. But then I discovered Kratom and CBD. I am no longer on prescription drugs, and I have more energy and pain relief than ever before. Kratom and CBD have given me my life back without draining my bank account. If you too would like some minor to major pain relief, Kratom and CBD might be for you. Either click on the links in the description below this video or go to dailyrenegade.com on the top left banner or right side ad and check out Tropic Health Kratom and CBD. Use promo code HEALTH20 for 20% off your order and get your life back today.
Well, we had a phenomenal interview with a extremely important person about a very important topic, and we're going to have to get to that and much more on today's Peck Report. Hey everybody, hope you are doing well. Well, like I mentioned before on earlier episodes of Peck Report, I do have quite a few pre-interviews with guests that appeared in the film Silent Cry that I wrote, edited, and directed. Now it's about the satanic and occult connections with child sex trafficking. So really important topic. But I have a number of pre-interviews. So these are not interviews that made it into the film. These are not interviews that when you get the film that you'll see these exact interviews in there. These are pre-interviews, meaning I interviewed these people trying to see what types of things they would say so I could build the film around it. And I have a number of these that I want to release. So I've already released a couple of them. And today I want to show you my pre-interview with Ilonka Deaton. Now, Alanka really shaped the whole film. I don't know at the time of this release if you've been able to watch Silent Cry or not. If not, go to skywatchtv.com and you'll be able to find it there, or skywatchtvstore.com. You'll at least find information on when it's going to be available if it's not yet. But Alanka's story really shaped this whole thing. She was sex trafficked herself as a child, and her brother, Jaco Bujans, was able to help her, rescue her from that, and now they both work to educate people on child sex trafficking. Now everybody in the film is Christian, and they all have a Christian worldview, meaning they understand the dark occultic sides of these things. So without further ado, I want to show you at least the first part of, and then we'll do the rest for members only. But here's the first part of Ilonka Deaton's pre-interview. Check this out. First question, where did you grow up, and what was the overall culture like?
I grew up in a suburb just outside Johannesburg, South Africa. And, wow, South Africa. What a gorgeous, beautiful, complicated, interesting place. The era that I grew up in, I was born in 82. So from 82 till about 1994, as you might be well aware, was the big push to end apartheid in South Africa. So I saw that firsthand, how that really impacted the nation and how that impacted families and just what that looked like on a first-hand basis. So the culture it wasn't violent at that point, although it became very violent. There was a lot of unrest, emotional unrest, to see where we were going to go as a nation, as a people group, and what that was going to look like. So a lot of my childhood and the culture had that in it. Where's South Africa going to go without apartheid, and what would that look like? And how do we bridge the gap and not be a racist country? Or for those that weren't racist, I was raised with a mom that wasn't like that at all. So how do you bridge that gap? And how do you get women to have the right to vote, and even Caucasian women, how do we get them to have the right to vote and to be more participating in society? So it was a very political climate that I was raised in, and the culture at that time. But then apart from that, it was just beautiful Africa landscapes and the animals and the big five and safaris and, running barefoot to school. So well,
That's great. So before the age of 12, what was your upbringing and childhood like in South Africa?
sure. I was born into a family with mom and dad, and my dad was a pilot in the Air Force. And due to some of the things that he underwent in the military, which is tied to apartheid as well, dad suffered a lot of PTSD and became an absent parent. I was maybe 13 months old. And then him and my mom went through divorce, and my mom became a single parent with 3 kids. Up until age 12, it was hard, hard and fun, in the sense of I got to have the opportunity to be a child, to have the innocence of being a child and playing with my brothers. I was the baby of the family, but I also saw how hard it was for my mom being a single parent. She had to work a lot. My eldest brother Yaku had to step into that father role a lot because our dad was just gone for years at a time. I loved singing and doing athletics, and mom really focused on having us engaged in activities to keep us out of trouble, but also because she knew that we didn't have that extra parent who could fill that gap, for us. And she is the can-do voice in my head. That always was very encouraging for us to strive for more, not to let the fact that we didn't have a dad in our life define us. But it did create a lot of brokenness for me and my siblings, and each one of us have had to deal with it a different way. But there was certainly a lot of abandonment issues that would arise, from that time. That underlying emotional trauma and stress from not having that parent there, the absence of him, and how that affected the other siblings. Like, for instance, Yaku needed to be a dad to me when that was never really his job. He was supposed to be just a sibling. So I have a lot of respect for my brother. I've had to see how he's had to undo those kind of things. But he really was just that, in my early childhood life. But we also had a lot of fun. We horsed around and, played cricket and rugby, and we had a pool, and we had fruit trees in the backyard, and would climb it and throw each other with peaches and all of those kind of things. So I did have a good childhood up until that time. But also some hard emotional things just from the brokenness of our family unit.
At the age of 12, you won a singing competition. Can you tell us what led you into singing and what winning that competition meant to you at the time?
Sure. So my mom moved us into a new neighborhood, which was closer to my grandparents. Our grandparents were very involved in helping my mom either take us to school and back or watch us after school. And we loved our grandparents. They were like a second set of parents to us, especially my granddad. And my mom moved us close to a neighborhood to be closer to them. And I met a friend in the neighborhood whose mom was dating a man who was in the music industry. And at first I didn't know this. We were in her room. It was the era of where you have tapes and you wait for your song to come on. You call the radio station, you go, please play this Def Leppard song. And then they play the Def Leppard song, and you are writing all the lyrics down to learn it, and you're waiting and you're recording it. It was that era. So we were doing that when her soon-to-be stepdad walked into her room and started engaging in a conversation with us about singing. And he was really flirtatious in his approach about my singing voice, just very complimentary, and that he's in the music industry and that they have this competition coming up and I should take part in it. So gave me a flyer and I took it home, gave it to my mom, begged her to go. Saw that friend and her soon-to-be stepdad several times, throughout that process, because she became a neighborhood friend. And my mom ended up agreeing taking the whole family went to the competition. I went through all the rounds, and then of course ended up winning it, which was pretty awesome. I thought it was great. I sang Whitney Houston's "The Greatest Love of All," but let me just tell you, I don't sound like Whitney Houston. I have a good voice, but I'm not Whitney. So
Great. Now, after that, you met your music manager. Before all the ugliness, before the attack happened, what did you think of him?
well, he was actually this girl's soon-to-be stepdad. He is the one who kind of introduced me into this. He was part of a group of entertainment companies who were putting on this this competition and this event, which what you would win is you would get a recording contract, and you would get to make your first album, and your career would start. What I didn't realize though is that me winning the competition, although I have a fairly good singing voice, I think that he saw the brokenness in our family, just getting to know me through his daughter, through his soon-to-be stepdaughter, and really was someone that was very sick, and who used a lot of girls, for his own, sexual gain, and really handpicked me, for that. And so he ended up becoming my music manager.
Can you tell us about the attack, what led up to it, and how it all played out?
Sure. So after I won the competition, so I'll just give you a timeline. So I'm 12 years old. I just turned 12. I win this competition. The first year after that, things were wonderful. He taught me a lot about music. He was just your typical music manager. Would teach you, bring in people to work with you, performance coaches, hairstylists, makeup artists, introduce you to producers and picking songs and all the typical normal things in the music industry, which I learned so much. I learned a lot from him because he had a lot of knowledge about the music industry and just about music content, period. A lot about booking and how you do it, how do you work with other professionals in the industry and musicians and all of that. So the first year was a dream come true for me, absolutely. But during that first year, he ended up not marrying that girl's mom and then attaching himself to my mom. So, which is very interesting because this is what a lot of predators do. I thought that he had interest in my mom, like that he wanted to, romantically date my mom, although they never did. But in his approach, he was like that with my mom, being very complimentary and to me as well, and to my brothers, and showing interest. He had 2 daughters who became friends of mine that first year. He would bring them over for play dates, and we would meet them at the park. I mean, he just really became ingrained in our family life. And my mom learned that she could trust him, It's been a year, everything was going fine. And however, my mom would still be the one to chaperone me and take me to all the rehearsals, all the recordings, and would be with me, scheduling it around her schedule. So about a year, not to date a year, but almost about a year before my 13th birthday, we had a rehearsal coming up, and my mom couldn't take me that day. But there was a scheduling problem to where it had to be that day, and it just had to happen. Now I know that it didn't have to be that day. It was really planned from him. My mom couldn't take me, and he just offered to come and pick me up and to take me to the rehearsal space, and my mom allowed it. And not to her fault that she allowed it, but she trusted him. I trusted him. He picked me up for the rehearsal. We drove to the rehearsal space, which looks like any normal kind of rehearsal venue that you've ever seen. And when we got there, we were the first people there. And I'll never forget that when you drove into the rehearsal space, they had this big metal gate that would open. And I can remember the metal gate opening and us driving in and seeing that we were the first cars there. And I even commented on that, and that wasn't odd, and he acknowledged, and we got out of the car. But here's something interesting. When we got out of the car, my intuition started flaring up. Even as a 12-year-old little girl, my intuition was telling me that something wasn't right. And I didn't know what it was, and I don't know if it was that I was sensing that evil had just stepped into my presence with him, and that he was getting ready to do something. So when we walked into the rehearsal space, he opened the door, being a gentleman. I walked in first, but then when he came in, he locked the door behind him. And that was the seal that I knew something bad was about to happen. And I turned around and asked to go home. And he said no. And he was very calm. He said, no, you're not going to go home. There's something special between you and me. And he told me what he was going to do. It wasn't like a violent rape scene in an alley somewhere. It was very planned out, very methodical. It's when you're in the presence of evil, Josh, and it's calm, it's a whole nother level of scary. It's not aggressive. At first, it is very calm and collective, and it attacks you in that way, and it's brutal. He proceeded to just, violently rape me. And at first, me fighting and crying and screaming and, trying to get away from it. I mean, and of course, he silenced me by putting his hand over my mouth. And he was a grown man. I mean, just to give you perspective, I think he's somewhere around 73 years old now. I mean, he's much bigger than I, and I was just a child. So when he overpowered me, I became, oh gosh, it was one of those hurtful things emotionally I ever experienced, but also I couldn't feel my body. It was my mind disengaged with my body, and I think it's probably the way that the Lord created us to survive, something like that. And then I couldn't move. It was just an awful experience. And however, when it was done, he told me to get up and go clean myself off, and that he was taking me home. And that was so confusing to me because I thought, what? This doesn't make sense to me. I was expecting I'm going to be kidnapped. I'm going to be, he's going to kill me. I mean, it was so violent. I didn't expect him to say he's going to take me home, right? But what I didn't know was that he was getting ready to threaten my family. So he told me that he would kill my mother in front of me, make me watch, and kill my brothers in front of me, and then kill me if I said a word. And if I wanted my mom to stay alive, I would not say one word. This would be our little secret. And if I agreed to be a good girl and do this for him, then I can have a music career. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. After the attack, he held you captive for 5 years. What led up to that, and what occurred during those years?
So after the first time that he attacked me, some months went by before he attacked me again. And that was mainly a strategy on his part to break my spirit, to show me that he had power over my career. So he would call and tell my mom that we didn't have a lot of singing dates and that he just really wanted to explain it to me on the phone. Then he would get with me on the phone and say, listen, you know what you need to do. If you're ready to be a good girl, you can play the game with us. You can sing. I have a lot of dates for you. You can make a lot of money. And I eventually, under the pressure of not knowing how to explain it to my mom, with having the secret, agreed to go to another singing event. He proceeded to rape me again. And then it just became a constant thing of, you have to lie to your mom to get out of this, so you have to come early, and there are some other girls that I want you to meet. And the other girls that I ended up meeting were girls that were in the same situation as I was. They were child stars who were being trafficked in a circle of men who were CEOs and owners of big resorts and casino companies and financial companies, and just a lot of sick people, Josh, who prey on kids. So I very quickly learned that I wasn't the only one. It wasn't a fast process. That's why it took so long. They're slow and methodical. So at first it was just him that did this to me. And then within the next year, he would introduce me to another person, and then to more kids being in it. So, and then all of a sudden, 3 years into it now, every time I go to sing at a big resort casino, there are 3 other girls there, right, who's going to join me on stage, but they're actually there for some of the other men, with secret hotel rooms and things like that. So it's slow and methodical, and I think that's why it took so long. But the unfortunate thing about it is when those predators pull you into a situation like that, the very first thing they do is they break your spirit. They break your spirit to make you feel that you're nothing. No one's going to want you. You have no worth or self-value. No one's going to care, to even date you because of what you've been through. No one's going to believe me because I'm a child, and he's an adult, and they're adults. And why would they believe children? Because children lie, and they just break your spirit to such a point that you lose your identity, And it's not that I did not know who created me. I mean, I was raised in church. I was raised in a Dutch Reformed church, going to Wednesday night youth camps and and youth groups. And my mom had us in church. I've always had a fear of Jesus, and I've always known who God the Father is. But they broke my spirit to such a degree that my worth and value detached, that God would ever want anything to do with me because of how damaged I am. And it's just a ploy. And I know now as an adult that is what they do to break people, because then if they can break your spirit, you will do anything that they want you to do.
When and how were you finally rescued?
17 years old, I was rescued by an undercover cop who was moonlighting as a bouncer security guard at a casino. He had no idea that I was in that situation. He simply came and knocked on my dressing room door to come and tell me that the management of the company I was singing for wanted me to go on a little bit early. And he walked into me and my manager at that time, we'll just call him John, being in a physical altercation. He wanted to have sex with me again before I went on stage. And I just gotten so tired of having to do that. And then I have to step on stage and sing for 4 hours. I thought, if he kills me this day, I don't care. I'm 17. I can, I'm far away from home. I'm hundreds of miles away from home. I can just disappear, somewhere else, but I'm not going to let him do this today. So the cop walked in on that, and immediately his instincts as a police officer is to act. And he acted immediately and got him away from me, although it was just a violent scene of screaming and yelling and arguing. And then the two of them got an altercation. And then John, who was my manager at that time, broke free and ran out of the dressing room. The cop wanted to make sure I was okay. They went after him. He fled the premises, and I've never seen him since that day.
Wow.
He went into hiding. All of his contracts and things, it was canceled. It disappeared. Temporarily, that kind of ring broke up, because he was the leader of that. And I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to know where they were. I was just, thank God that he was out of my life.
Mm-hmm. All right. I hope that was interesting. Now, there is a lot more that Alanka said, and you got to hear the rest of the story because it's just phenomenal. But in order to do so, you'll have to become a member. Go to dailyrenegade.com. You can become a member there. Don't blame me, blame YouTube, because for years I provided you with all of this information, all these videos for free. Make sure you do that, dailyrenegade.com. All right, if you are viewing for free, thank you so much. Please subscribe. Follow us online. You can follow us on dailyrenegade.com. You can even set up an account for free if you wish. You can do that. Members, hang on the line. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, take care and God bless.